It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Schaff, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. Of course, our top story right now, and has been the top story for a good portion of the week, has been the success of the West Bloomfield High School girls basketball team. The Lakers are about to be facing off against Belleville in a state semifinal rematch at the Breslin Center right now in Lansing. And here live at the Breslin Center right now, catching all of the action firsthand, is our very own Kevin McIntosh. Kevin, what's it looking like out there?
Well, thank you, Jake. I am live in East Lansing at Breslin Center, home of the Michigan State Spartans, right here on the court. In just a couple of hours, it's going to be filled with excitement and action as West Bloomfield will be taking on Belleville for the state semifinals. West Bloomfield making their fourth straight state semifinals right here on this court. We're expecting West Bloomfield to come out here with briefcases and give Belleville the business. As a matter of fact, I recently spoke with athletic director Eric Pierce from West Bloomfield High School, who spoke on how although West Bloomfield lost to Belleville earlier in the season, they're looking to be a completely different team coming up.
You talk about a legacy, 51 straight OAA red wins for this team before they had a loss to Clarkston this year. That's years of league basketball in a row that they've won. It's the West Bloomfield girls basketball team. Whenever I go over to an OAA meeting for our athletic directors, it's the topic of conversation a ton of times. And one of the big things is just how have you guys been so good? It's amazing. It's so much fun to watch you play, the style of basketball that you play. And it's cool to hear that from people because they recognize what we're doing. There's been other people that have come up and said, you know, there's only a few teams in the state that can play the game the way that you guys play. And they're correct.
And yes, like you just heard, athletic director Eric Pierce just mentioned, West Bloomfield girls varsity basketball team have been the talk of the entire state for the most part, with the local athletic directors that he speaks with as well, who ask about what's the secret behind the success for the West Bloomfield girls Lakers varsity basketball team. And like we said, we also spoke to Eric Pierce, and he continuously talked about what would be the difference in West Bloomfield facing Belleville now in the state semifinals as opposed to earlier in the year.
I believe, honestly, the biggest adjustment's experience. You know, our girls are way more experienced, have way more court time now than they did at the beginning of the year. And that was, as you said, one of our first games. You had a Belleville team that was returning people that had a lot of experience against a team that was relatively inexperienced in terms of the amount of minutes that were out there played and the amount of clutch situations that they had been in. So the experience is a huge factor. And you know, going to the Breslin has been like our second home basically over the last few years. Somebody was joking that Coach McAllister should get a reserved parking spot there because he's been there so much lately. But it's one of those things where we've been there. We understand what it's like. Yeah, we love going there. It's beautiful, but they're not going to be in awe of the atmosphere. They've been there before. And I think that we're going to come out. We understand the defense more now, that we understand how our offensive scheme goes, and they just have a ton more experience. They played with each other a lot more, with each other on the court. You know, we're now 27 games into the season, and there's just so much more that goes into it now, and so much more that we understand.
A lot of growth, a lot of development since the last time West Bloomfield played Belleville earlier in the season, where they took a loss 84-49. Now, like Eric Pierce just said, a lot of growth, a lot of development for the West Bloomfield Lakers. So we're looking to make those adjustments and come right here to the state semifinals and do what we have to do to move forward to the state finals as well. We'll continuously have coverage post-game and during the actual game right here on Civic Center TV as well. Jake?
Thank you so much, Kevin. Can't wait to see the results of this game. I wish I was out there with you and Tyler, but I know you guys are going to have a lot of fun seeing this game and catching all the action for all of us right here with the Splash Live. So that's something to look forward to later in the day. Hopefully the West Bloomfield Lakers can take it all the way. Keego Harbor last night appointed a new yet very familiar face as their brand new police chief, with the footage right here of the moment that the new police chief was named for Keego Harbor.
Bobby's had exemplary service to the city for 22 years. The citizens have been here to support him. We're here to support him. We want our officers to see promotion from within, and he's been an interim chief for 6 months, and the department's run fantastic. Everybody is very pleased, so I'll take it to council. You want to have any discussion on this contract?
All I can say is that I think he's done an excellent job, and I think this is well-deserved.
And we spoke at length Tuesday night. I always call him Bobby. Known him for a long time. He's done a great job, and I'm very happy to support this decision.
That's right. Chief Robert Bobby Barnes was sworn in as the chief of police for the city of Keego Harbor last night. He has been the interim chief of police for Keego Harbor since August 2024, since the retirement of John Fitzgerald. And Robert Barnes has had over 25 years of law enforcement experience. He was a 2001 reserve officer for Madison Heights PD. He was hired by the Keego Police Department in 2005. He started acting as OIC in June of 2024, and in March of 2025, right now, he joined the new Chiefs School. Plenty of accomplishments for Chief Robert Barnes, who had this to say as he accepted his new position with the Keego Harbor Police Department.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is, I call him Sarge. This is Steve Warden, who retired from Madison Heights Police Department. I sat across from him in 2001. He interviewed me for a position to be a reserve officer, and I was so nervous and wanted that so bad. This guy got me started in law enforcement. Wasn't for him hiring me, I would be at Sylvan Lake or something.
Such kind words from Chief Robert Barnes as he accepts this brand new position with the Keego Harbor Police Department. We wish him all the best in this new position. We hope to have him on our show very, very soon to hear his thoughts on his new position with the city. But big congratulations to him. Of course, right here in West Bloomfield, one of the big talking points has remained to be the State of the Oakland County address that took place just a couple days ago right here in West Bloomfield, where Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter shared his vision for the Oakland County community, as well as cities close by, like right here in West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and beyond. And joining us right now to talk a little bit more and to share some reflections on his recent speech, we have Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter joining us right now on The Splash. Dave, very happy to have you with us today.
Hey, always great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Always love talking to you. We spoke a little bit at the event just a couple days ago, and now we want to get into a little bit more talk about how this is going to be affecting cities like West Bloomfield. And reflecting on the progress that you've made since your last State of the County address, what achievements since then are you the most proud of, and what lessons have you learned that are going to inform, that are going to help shape some of these new initiatives?
Oh, gosh, that's a great question, because I'm proud of a lot of the work that we're doing. I talked the other night, like you said, at the Berman Center in West Bloomfield about the way that we're leaning in to help our small businesses. I'm really proud of the fact that we have doubled down on our support for our entrepreneurs, our small businesses. You know, Oakland County is a wealthy county, and sometimes we're known for things like being the headquarters of, Stellantis and General Motors Orion, but it's our small businesses that really drive the economy here. It's over 90% of our businesses are small. And so we've done a lot through our Oakland Thrive program to lift up and support the needs of our small businesses, whether it's for marketing or for capital or website design. Whatever a small business needs, we're trying to be there to lift them up and to support them. And I'm really proud of that.
You should be. We've had Oakland Thrive on our show very, very recently. They talked about all the work that they have done to help West Bloomfield businesses. They're going to be having an event in just a couple weeks to honor some of those businesses. How have you seen things in West Bloomfield specifically improve so much when it comes to small businesses?
Oh my gosh, I mean, this has been a successful area anyway, right? But one of the things I wanted to talk about in the speech, and the speech was a little different than some of my other ones where I just sort of tick off accomplishments, because what I said was, West Bloomfield Township, Birmingham, the areas that you cover, they're successful, but we need to be mindful of the environment that we're in today, the polarized environment that we're in today, the changes that we're seeing as a country, and I think we need to lean in. One of the things I talked about in this speech was to stretch, to do more in areas that help lift everybody up, because it's not enough that just some people are doing well. It's important that we all do well and that we're in this together. And so I'm really proud to have given this speech in West Bloomfield. I'm really proud of the work that's been done there. West Bloomfield Supervisor Jonathan Warshay, my former neighbor, actually was the MC of our event. I'm so proud of the work that's done here. But we have an obligation as a people and as a county to make sure that everybody gets lifted up and that we get past this polarization, the chaos that we sometimes feel in this country and even in our own county and community, and put what I said, progress over politics, progress over chaos. And that was really the theme of this speech.
That's a great message for everyone to keep into mind. Progress over politics. And one of the big things you've talked about is the expansion of public transit into more areas of Oakland County. Are there plans to enhance transit options in and around West Bloomfield to improve accessibility for residents and businesses?
There are. And, I talked about that a little bit as well. So the first thing we have to do is we need more buses and more riders, right? We need, shorter hours, shorter time to get to public transit, make it easier. And so just in the last 2 years, we've hired more than 400 new drivers to make the transit more accessible for folks, right? And then the important thing is to make it so that you can go to more places. So when you leave the West Bloomfield area, you can get to Rochester Hills or Novi if that's where your job is or if that's where you need to go. So we've increased, for instance, Novi. The ridership to Novi is up 76% since the millage. And that's because there's a shorter wait time, there's more buses, there's more drivers. It's inexpensive, $2 a ride anywhere you want to go in Oakland County. So we're continuing to build out that network of places that you can go and the wait time that it takes to get there.
That's amazing. So many great resources for everyone here in West Bloomfield and beyond. And public safety, I know, is a very top priority for a lot of West Bloomfield residents. How does the county plan to collaborate with things like local law enforcement and emergency services to continue to ensure the safety of the community?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the reasons people live in West Bloomfield and Oakland County is because it's a safe place to live and to raise your family. One of the ways that the county has helped support our sheriff's department is through mental health services. A lot of the calls that our police officers go on are related to substance abuse and mental health. And you know what? It's just not fair. They're not trained in that. So we now have a co-responder program so that if an officer is out there dealing with someone and he or she realizes that this is really a mental health or a substance abuse issue, they can call our team of co-responders who can help diffuse that situation, de-escalate it, and get those people into the treatment or hospital instead of the jails. And it takes the burden off of our first responders, and it keeps more of those types of folks who are having those issues out of our jails. So that's one way that the county has really tried to support our law enforcement over the last couple of years.
For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, we have Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter joining us right now to talk about his recent State of the County address and how a lot of these changes and proposed changes are going to be affecting cities like Greater West Bloomfield. And West Bloomfield has a very diverse population. And how does your administration plan to ensure that county programs like Oakland 80 and mental health services effectively reach and support this diverse community?
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because ever since I've been executive, I've tried to lift up the fact that this is a very diverse county. We have people from all over the world here. And the fact of the matter is the population in Oakland County would not have grown over the last 10 years if it weren't for our immigrant population. We need them, they fuel our growth, and they make our communities better. So I talked about the need to make sure that everyone in our county feels welcome, they feel safe, they feel valued, and that we respect them. And so what we're trying to do at the county is to make sure that all of the programs that we offer, all of the services that we provide are accessible to everyone. And that means not just putting it on the website and just assuming that everybody can find it. We're working in the communities and in diverse communities to make sure that we're reaching them where they're at in a way that's accessible to them, so that they understand that these programs and services exist. We value them, and we want them to take advantage of it.
That's amazing. And a lot of people all around the West Bloomfield community are very excited about some of these programs. And I want to go into the West Bloomfield School District for a minute, because like many others, it faces challenges related to enrollment and funding. How can the county support local schools in preparing students for the workforce and higher education opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, because it's important, and sometimes people say, well, county government isn't the school district, it isn't schools. But our schools are so important to a successful community and a successful family life, right? And so we can't ignore it. One of the things that we're launching, that we just launched this last year, is we're putting education navigators, county-funded education navigators in our high schools, so that we can expose our young people to the jobs, the apprenticeships, and the education opportunities that are available to them. Hey, it's hard to be a student these days. There's a lot going on. And so what we're trying to do through our Oakland 80 initiative, which is to get more of our young people and adults with some kind of post-high school education or training, is we're now embedding them right in our high schools. We're talking to our kids right where they are and saying, look, these are the high in demand jobs. What are your passions? What are you passionate about? Where are your talents and skills? Let's see if we can align those so that we can help you get the career that you want, and also help our businesses get the employees that they want. And so we're really doubling down on trying to expose our kids to the jobs that are out there.
That's great that you have all these resources, and you're absolutely right. There are a lot of differences now for high school students than there were back when I was in high school, which wasn't too long ago, but a lot of great things for people to keep an eye on. And
a lot longer than when I was there, I'll just say. So I guess the bottom line, and I love that you said that, is times have changed, things are different, and government needs to be flexible, and it needs to change with the times. And so it used to be that, you could just put out a program and people would find it, or you would hope. But we know now that the struggles for young people and for everybody, frankly, are different. And I think it's one of the things I tried to highlight in this speech is that government needs to stretch and adapt to meet the times that we're in. And I think that's what we're trying to do in Oakland County. I hope we're doing it well.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job with everything you're doing. I got one more question for you, Dave, before we let you go. What specific benefits from the county's economic development strategies do you see impacting West Bloomfield within the next few years?
Yeah, so we are constantly trying to bring the right mix of companies and jobs to Oakland County, so that our residents have an ability to have a good life, to have a good job, to work for a good company. And so, I've gone on a couple of different trade missions around the world. I've been to Dubai and South Korea, luring those companies back to bring those good paying jobs to Oakland County. But I want to make this point. These jobs aren't just for the benefit of the companies. I feel passionately that we're not just trying to bring jobs here, but good jobs. Jobs that you can feel excited about, you can be passionate about, and that pay a good wage, so that you can have a good life and you can raise your family on a good salary. And so that's what we're laser focused on, to bring the people of West Bloomfield and people across the county good paying jobs that they can raise a family on and have a decent life here in Oakland County.
Well, you are doing all the right things. You got a lot of plans in place. Can't wait to see how everything turns out. Executive Coulter, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Splash Live.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely love talking with you and love hearing about a lot of these plans in a little more of an in-depth conversation after attending the State of the County address just a couple days ago. So we appreciate Dave Coulter for his time in his very busy schedule for appearing here on the Splash Live. And we've got plenty of other huge stories and big things to go over right after this quick commercial break. Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
Hi, I'm Lauren Azuri, the Park Naturalist Supervisor for West Bloomfield Parks. Congratulations to you, Civic Center TV, for hitting 1 million views on YouTube. We really appreciate your partnership in spreading nature education in a creative way in our community. I'm Lauren Azuri, proud to be 1 in a million.
Bringing you stories and memories from Orchard Lake. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. And now, back to the Splash, live.
Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Schaap, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. Of course, one of those things being Lakers basketball, with the West Bloomfield Lakers having their game later today at the Breslin Center. And you can check out all of the action with Lakers basketball on the QR code that you see on your screen right now if you're watching on Civic Center TV. Just scan the QR code. It will take you right to the page where it will feature all of the updates on the West Bloomfield Lakers and all of their success. Can't wait to see what's to come from that team later on in the day and in the future. The NWS offices are seeking precipitation observers. The National Weather Service is seeking volunteers to observe rain and in some cases snow throughout southeast Michigan. The reports help track precipitation patterns, verify forecasts, and assess flooding potential. Here to tell us more about this opportunity, we have a meteorologist with the National Weather Service of Detroit and Pontiac, Sarah Schultz, joining us right now on The Splash. Sarah, good morning.
Hi.
Hi, good to see you. Happy to have you with us. Really interested about this position for people to be getting with the National Weather Service. Can you explain why volunteer precipitation observers are so important to the National Weather Service?
Yes, again, thank you for having me. And
of course,
we really need precipitation observers. And this program that this is through is called COCORAS, which stands for the Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. And they're observers from all ages and backgrounds that measure precipitation for us, not only rain and snow, but hail too. And again, it just allows people to become a part of a community-based science network. And again, that allows for us to help, with forecasts, flooding, drought. And it's not only used by us here at the office, but it's also used by farmers, city utilities, emergency management, engineers, and research too. So it's used across the country, and you can go on to cocoras.org for this. But yes, it's very important, and it helps us, with a lot of things.
Wow, sounds like it makes a really big difference for the National Weather Service. And what kind of training or equipment do volunteers receive to report this precipitation accurately?
Yes, so to join COCORAS, you'll go on the website, and right on the upper right, there's a item where you can click Join COCORAS. There you will sign up with all your information, and all it takes for training is to watch a few videos, which are a lot of fun to watch, and you are ready. One thing I do want to preference is we want to make sure that your rain gauge, because you will also have to buy a rain gauge. So it's a pretty inexpensive rain gauge. I have example of one of the rain gauges right here.
Oh, wow.
So this is our local rain gauge. Yes. It's got spikes on it, but you can also get, there's two versions that you can get. So there's two, but you can go and buy a rain gauge. They're about $40 to $60. And once you get that, you can start measuring the precipitation. And again, watch the training videos. And once you get your rain gauge sighted properly, because that's very important, is we don't want people to put them under a tree or right next to a house. So we want to make sure that it is sighted well. But yeah, once you get all that set up, it's real easy, fun training, and you're good to go.
Right. I can imagine if you set something like that under a tree or by a house, there'd be a bigger influx of rain, and that might affect some of the measurements. So, of course, you want it to be as accurate as possible. And yeah. Are there specific areas in southeastern Michigan that are in a greater need for some of these volunteer observers?
Yeah, there is, especially our less populated areas, especially up in the Thumb area. We really need observers up there. Especially for rainfall and snowfall too. You know, snowfall, we can only see so much with the radar up there. And so if we have, we need especially those snowfall reports to help us gauge, like, okay, how much is actually coming off the lake. Lake effect snow is actually very hard to forecast. So when we get reports, that helps us a lot.
That's right. It is important to keep track of snow right now. Even though spring has officially sprung, snow is still a very big possibility. I saw some snow just yesterday. It's still possible anywhere you see it. So what has been the public response so far in terms of this call to the volunteers?
It has been very good. Right now, the month of March, we are in what we have it titled Rain Gauge Rally. And so it's kind of like a March Madness, but we just encourage people to sign up, get as many volunteers signed up as we can. So yeah, if you can go on and sign up, that would be great.
That's right. We have meteorologist Sarah Schultz joining us right now from the National Weather Service of Detroit and Pontiac, talking about the call for precipitation trackers and observers for the National Weather Services. And have past observations from volunteers, has that led to a significant improvements involving weather forecasting or emergency preparedness?
Oh, yes, it definitely has, and it continues to do so. And the more observers that we can get to measure precipitation, correctly and, accurately, that actually allows, better forecasts, and it allows for a more complete and detailed picture of what's actually going on. Because we all know, living in this state, that it can be snowing at one location and raining a few miles away. So having that bigger picture is essential across the board.
I would imagine so. And I'm curious, are there any challenges that can arise with some of these volunteers in ensuring that volunteer data is consistent and reliable?
The biggest issue that we run into is just, we want to properly train. And so, another one is where the precipitation gauge is. We don't want it on a roof or anything like that. There are certain criteria that you need to be careful of. Again, put it out in an open area and know how to, what you're reading too. Another big concern too that we look at every day, we actually quality control the data that comes in from the observers, and a lot of times, just like common mistakes that are made, are just moving that decimal point over. So instead of raining 0.14 inches, they might have incorrectly put 1.4 inches, which is a huge difference. But we try to catch that at the office when that comes in.
That's right. You got to stay alert, and you got to watch out for mistakes like that. And the Weather Service, of course, in the news, there have been some recent budget cuts to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which does, of course, include the Weather Service. How does the Weather Service plan to maintain its level of service despite some of these budget cuts that have taken place?
We still continue with the mission here at the office, which is protection of life and property. And Kokoros, we do work with them. They're based out in Colorado, so it's not actually with the Weather Service. But again, all that information comes in and we all use it, and it's all combined. So we all work very closely together. So that will be, continuing.
That's absolutely right. All of that information and all of that teamwork makes a huge difference. Sarah, last question before we let you go. What advice would you give to someone who might be watching this, who's considering to be signing up to become a precipitation observer?
Have fun with it. This isn't, we don't want you to be stressed out about it or anything, but just, have fun with it. Sign up, look at the videos, watch it, and then just be curious about, okay, what is, what's happening, what's snowfall. And it's great to always kind of learn something new. And even if you just have a little interest, in rain and snow, it's a great thing to do. And you don't have to do it every day either. And that's a big thing too. Like, you can go on vacation and then come back and do it. So that's really nice with this program.
It sounds like an incredible program. Can't wait to see what comes from it. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today here in the Splash Live.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Such an immersive and such a unique way to help track the weather and a way to get everybody involved. We really appreciate Sarah coming on and telling us all about this great experience with the National Weather Service. All this week, we have been talking about the local author fair right here in West Bloomfield. That's going to be taking place at the West Bloomfield Library on Sunday, March 23rd. A chance for local West Bloomfield authors to meet and communicate with some of the younger readers of the community and to meet some of their fans and showcase some of their many, many books. And we have one of those authors that's going to be taking part in the author fair joining us right now on the Splash, children's book author Alice McGinty. Alice, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, happy to be here.
Happy to have you with us. We love talking with local West Bloomfield authors and readers, and you've written a wide range of children's books, from biographies to fiction and poetry. What draws you to writing for young readers?
I have always enjoyed books. When I was a kid, I loved books, and I felt like I had a connection to words. Words had rhythm, words told stories, and I loved the stories and the rhythms and the poetry that I read in books, and I wanted to share that with children. So I still play. I play all the time. I play with words and stories and characters.
Yes, and children love your books. You've got plenty of them out. We've got one of your books, Step by Step, and another one called The Girl Who Named Pluto. A lot of these books have inspiring and educational themes. What is it, the big thing that you hope children take away from some of these stories?
I want kids to widen their worlds and realize that there was an 11-year-old girl who really named the planet Pluto, and that they could do amazing things too. So I want them to be inspired. I want to give them a sense of wonder. I want to inspire their curiosity to ask questions and find out more. So that's what I hope that they could take away, along with just a love of language and words and books and story.
And you're teaching everybody a lot of these facts. I actually did not know an 11-year-old girl named Pluto, so you've taught me something right now. And you've also written biographies about some very important figures like Darwin and Gandhi. What is your research process like when bringing historical figures to life for some of these young readers?
I immerse myself in it. I just absolutely dive in. I read everything that I can. With Gandhi, I was able to actually contact his grandfather, and I went to India and went to his home where he grew up and took a tour of the Salt March, which is what the book is about, where he went from village to the sea. So I just try total immersion and jump in and learn everything I absolutely can. And when I feel like I know enough, I start to write.
You said you contacted his grandfather, or did you mean his grandson?
Oh, yes. Sorry, grandson. Good catch.
Yeah, I heard that. I'm like, that seems a little off. But no, that is incredible that you have these great sources to really make these stories authentic. And I got to ask, what inspires some of these ideas? Do you start with a theme, a character, something else? What is it that helps these books come to life?
It's different every time. It really is. The girl who named Pluto, I was researching another book about space, and I came across a tiny article, just one paragraph long, that told me what I didn't know either, that an 11-year-old girl named the planet Pluto. And I dropped the other project immediately. I said, oh my gosh, I've got to write about this. So often something comes to my attention, and it inspires me, and I say, at first, I usually say there has to be a book about this already. And then I go and I look it up and I realize there's not. And then I know I have to write it.
For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, we have children's book author Alice McGinty joining us right now to talk about her books and her upcoming participation in the West Bloomfield Library's local author fair that's taking place on Sunday, March 23rd. And I want to get into that real quick, Alice, because this is the second author fair that's taking place right here in West Bloomfield. What made you want to participate in the author fair this year? Did you participate last year?
I did not. And I'm fairly new to West Bloomfield. I've been here permanently about 3 years. So I'm trying to meet people and let people know that I'm here now. So I'm super excited to join the fair.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of young readers who are going to be very, very excited to meet you. What do you enjoy most about meeting young readers and aspiring young writers at events like this?
Yeah, and I just came back from 2 weeks of school presentations. I love it. It truly is the highlight for me as a writer to be in the same room and to have contact with young readers, kids who have read my books. You know, as writers, a lot of what we do is solitary, and we put the words down and it becomes a book. But to know there are kids out there reading, it's truly the best for me, because that means I've reached someone, I've connected. So I love the idea of connecting with young readers, and I hope to do a lot of that on Sunday.
Well, I'm sure you will. And what advice would you give to young readers who are looking to become an author and a writer of their own?
I always end my presentation with read, 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 and write, write, write. I tell them they're story detectives. Go out there and find the stories in your world, in your life, and write them down.
Read, 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 and write, write, write. I'm sure everybody's going to be remembering that one. Alice, one more quick question before we let you go. Do you have any upcoming books or stories that you're excited about and you want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago, my book, Babe the Cat, came out. And it's a wonderful book. It's funny. Kids laugh out loud, which is what I really want. And I've got a sequel to it coming out in 2026 called Deck the Cats. And it's actually the same family getting ready for Christmas.
Oh, I'm sure kids are going to be very excited to read that book. Alice, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Splash Live.
Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful talking with you, Jake.
Wonderful talking with you as well. One more reminder, the author fair is going to be taking place on Sunday, March 23rd at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. And we've been communicating with local authors and the library itself all week to help promote the event and to get everybody in the community excited about meeting these local authors. Another author we spoke to recently is Donovan Neal, who is combining Christian elements with fiction and fantasy. Our very own Tyler Keefe recently spoke with him to hear about his story writing process and his involvement in the event.
Thank you so much for being with us, Donovan.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on as we preview your appearance at our author fair that is coming up. Tell us a little bit about your style of storytelling and how you do kind of mix different elements and different genres into your stories.
Basically, my specialty or niche is Christian speculative fiction. I've written a 4-book series about the fall of Lucifer. And what I try to do is take the things that we do and don't know, do know about the Bible in that particular story, and mix that in a narrative type of way. And in the same way, if you're familiar with The Chosen, I know that's a really fantastic television show that's out right now. And so using elements similar to that type of storytelling where you are looking at actual historical events and speculating to some degree about the things that we don't know and creating a very interesting tale that people can enjoy.
And it's a unique blend of these genres, as I mentioned before that first question, because you're not only bringing into this sort of theological themes and stories, and as you mentioned, different moments in history where you are forced through your storytelling to analyze them through a different lens. You're also blending in some fun with fantasy and with science fiction as well. What about that makes, in your opinion, for a more interesting telling of these stories from Christian texts and also from our history?
Well, I think as far as the story itself, one of the most fascinating things to me is about is the fact that Lucifer, Satan, the devil, call him what you will, he's already in the garden. And so I call my story the prequel to the Bible, not to be sacrilegious, but to emphasize the fact that the fall of Lucifer is the mitigating event that launches virtually everything that we see about in the Bible. And in terms of fantasy, I love Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings, all of that, and what you can bring by bringing to life different elements that are obviously different from our real world setting and mixing that together with what we do know from history and creating, again, a dynamic tale. So.
The West Bloomfield Local Author Fair is happening Sunday, March 23rd from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. More information can be found on the Author Fair, including some of our local authors like Donovan Neal, who will be joining us at the event on WBLIB.org. Donovan, you have such an interesting background in working with nonprofits and working in ministry as well. And so how did you get into storytelling and becoming an author?
By accident on some level. I would say that my old creative, I went to Churchill High School in Livonia. I had a creative writing final exam, wrote a 100-page novel that was a mix of science fiction. And I didn't write again probably for about 20 years between that time frame. So there was just simply a story that I wanted to see told. And I had not seen that story told in any type of way that really satisfied me. And so in my audacity and I would even say naivety, I decided that I was going to write this story, at least for myself. And as would have it, as I published this, after I published the story, people resonated with it. They enjoyed it. And I remember one particular person who read it before it came, man, you've got to publish this story. So I did, and kind of the rest is history.
Donovan Neal is with us on The Splash Live, a local author from right here in the Greater West Bloomfield area that will be joining the Greater West Bloomfield community at the local author fair on Sunday, March 23rd, as we continue our local celebration of March being Reading Month. And so as you get that opportunity that you're going to have this weekend to talk to book lovers and other authors across the community, what do you pick up as a creative from being able to have that dialogue, both with people that are reading your books, but also others that are going through the same sort of experiences through that creative process themselves?
Well, when you're an author and you have an event like this, and again, shout out, kudos to the West Bloomfield Local Library for doing this. When you're there as an author, you have the opportunity to not just network or interface, connect with local authors. And there's various things that you can learn and pick up from them in terms of various shows, writing styles, just tips of the trade, as it were. And then there's just the overall satisfaction of being able to meet your fans and those individuals who will become fans. And so it's always a wonderful thing when you meet someone who's actually read your materials and they come and realize, hey, you're going to be in the area and I want to meet you. I want you to sign my book. I can't tell you the number of occasions where I've had instances like that, but it's always wonderful to talk with people just about storytelling, what they find, what they enjoy. And even if they don't enjoy the specific genre that I write in, usually in an event like this, you can direct them to another author that will meet the needs of what they're looking for as far as their entertainment dollars are concerned.
His book, The Third Heaven, will be on display as part of the local author fair at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. Again, that is happening Sunday, March 23rd, 1 p.m. until 4 p.m. at the main library here in West Bloomfield. And so, Donovan, as you went through the process of writing The Third Heaven, what was, in your opinion, the most challenging aspect of it, and what was the most rewarding aspect that you got out of putting that story out there?
The most challenging aspect of writing a story like this is just, the reality is there's just simply things that we do not know. There's simply things that the Bible are sacred texts for both Christians and those of Jewish and even Islamic persuasions. There's simply things we do not know. And so trying to satisfy, in particular, again, I write to a Christian audience primarily, trying to satisfy all of Christendom is impossible. And so there's no way that anything that I write can be looked at as in a prescribed doctrinal way. It has to be looked at from a speculative standpoint. So that was the most challenging thing, really being able to try to take a story and do justice and reverence to what for majority of the world's populations is a sacred text. And so that's the most challenging thing. The most rewarding thing was basically getting the book done, getting it finished, and taking a step back and looking at it and said, wow, we did it. And I think one of the biggest compliments that I get after individuals read the stories is, wow, this should be a movie. This should be, I need to see this on the big screen. And what's ironic about that for me is that when I wrote the series, I wrote it from the standpoint of, if I was at Imagine Novi and I was sitting back, how would I want this story told to me? And so with all of that, I love movies, I love video games, comics, I grew up with all of that. And so I have a very vivid imagination. And so I wrote that book like I would want to see Lord of the Rings in the theater for the first time. And so when I get a reader that resonates with that, and that lets me know I did my job.
And as a reader and as someone that just really enjoys imagery in text, that's something that would attract me to a story like this. But you mentioned that this is primarily aimed, your stories are primarily aimed at Christian audiences, but you're tackling issues that are pretty universal across different faiths and even those that maybe don't practice a specific faith or religious experience. It's good versus evil. So, and that's really the big underlying theme of this. How do you then incorporate these themes into these stories in a way that will still also resonate with people that maybe don't have a background in Christian ministry or may not be Christians themselves?
Mm-hmm. You definitely don't have to be a Christian to enjoy the story. Most of us in Western civilization understand the stories, whether we connect with them on a personal level or not. As a matter of faith, we're familiar with the story of the fall of Lucifer, devil, Satan, call him who you will. We're familiar with that. And so I think they're just simply overarching themes that are in the story. Rebellion, what it's like not to be satisfied, what it's like to gather those around you who have the same type of thinking that you have. It is a classic good versus evil story. I'm a classicist in that sense. I like to see good win out over evil. And so in my books, good definitely wins. But you're seeing the descent of darkness and how someone in an idyllic environment can move from a position of privilege, from a position of prosperity, from a position of having everything that they want or desire, but still not being satisfied. And really what the implications of that are for us as we live out our daily lives, both with each other, and if we are persons of faith, how we interact with God.
Donovan Neal is with us on the Splash Live, one of many local authors you will see at the West Bloomfield Local Author Fair happening Sunday, March 23rd from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. Donovan, we're going to see so many people who have taken the plunge into writing their stories, getting that book out in our community as we attend the Local Author Fair. For you, and as you're talking to us today, and as you're going to be interfacing with people that maybe have a story in them that they want to tell, what advice do you have for perhaps first-time authors that may emerge from our community beyond this weekend's event?
That's a great question. The biggest thing that I can tell individuals who are writing and want to write a novel, memoir, I mean, I see all different types of writing styles and persons. It's simply finish. So you don't get any points for starting. You have to finish. Until you finish it, and you can sit back and say, the end, you don't have a product to market. So finishing is the main thing. You can edit it after you finish it, but it's important that you tell yourself the story, write the story down, and that you tell it to yourself so that by the time, at the end of the day, you can look back and say, yes, this is the complete story. Now that you have this lump of clay, as it were, now you can do the hard work of shaping it even more into something that's presentable for public consumption.
Donovan Neal is with us on the Splash Live. You can find more information on him and his stories on donovanmneal.com, or better yet, join him at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library's main branch Sunday, March 23rd from 1 to 4 p.m. for the local author fair. Donovan, anything else before we let you go today?
Well, I just hope to see various ones out there. Hopefully it'll be a great day, and I'm sure we'll have a great time talking about all the various stories that we have out there. So, and again, thank you for hosting me today.
Appreciate having you on, Donovan. Thank you so much.
Lots of big stories and big authors that are going to be at the local author fair this weekend. Really appreciate Tyler Kieft for the interview and for Donovan Neal for stopping by and to telling us all about his storytelling process. I want to remind everybody once again that we are going to be recapping all of the action with the West Bloomfield girls Lakers basketball team over on our website. You can scan the QR code on your screen on Civic Center TV to go straight to the website to be up to date on all of the action with the West Bloomfield girls Lakers basketball team as they are back in the Breslin for the 4th consecutive year. We're going to take another quick break and get into some more big stories right after this. Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. Bringing you stories and memories from Sylvan Lake, Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
Good nutrition can help make sure you have enough iron, calcium, and vitamin C in your body, which can make it harder for lead to enter your bloodstream. Help protect your family from the harmful effects of lead.
I get around primarily by bicycle. That's how I get to work every day, except for when it's really rainy or snowing, then I take the bus.
We take public transportation here to the seniors.
And now, back to the Splash Live.
Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Schaff, going over all the biggest news from right here in West Bloomfield, as well as keeping you up to date with all of the action with the West Bloomfield girls Lakers basketball team right here with Civic Center TV. Lots of other big things happening this week, including that spring is finally here. Warmer weather is on the horizon, but that doesn't mean that we are done with ice just yet. In fact, this is going to pose new dangers and concerns with the melting ice here in Greater West Bloomfield. Recently, I spoke with Fire Sergeant Blake Belsky with the West Bloomfield Fire Department to hear about these concerns involving ice melting right here in Greater West Bloomfield. We have Fire Sergeant with the West Bloomfield Fire Department, Blake Belsky, joining us right now on The Splash. Blake, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Really, really good, and really interested in getting into this conversation because spring is coming up very, very soon, and everywhere you look outside, there's not a lot of snow, and the ice is quickly starting to thaw. So what are some of the primary risks associated with melting ice during the spring season?
Yeah, let's not wait for that official spring start date. Weather-wise, we're in it. That ice is going to be few and far between here. And I cannot caution our residents strongly enough against trying to get out on any of that leftover ice for any kind of activities. It is just not strong enough to be reliable to hold you, to hold any kind of ice craft, skates. It's just too dangerous, and you will very likely end up in that very, very cold water. We just don't want to risk it.
That's absolutely right. A lot of risk factors in play right now pertaining to this ice, and a lot of reasons why you should not go on it. And how can individuals properly assess the thickness and the stability of the ice before stepping onto it and kind of testing it?
Well, there are tools available. The DNR has some really great resources as far as their recommended equipment, rulers, augers, whatever you need to do. But one of the points that they do make is that there is no reliable ice depth to assume that it's safe. There are too many factors, whether it's changes in temperature fluctuation or ice that's been covered in slush. Ice that has moving water underneath it is going to melt and be less stable. It's just, I don't want anyone to feel comfortable because an ice is a certain thickness that this is now safe. This is something that needs to be evaluated daily, and even as you move across the ice, to make sure that that ice, even 5 feet in front of you, is still safe as it had been where you were before.
Right, absolutely. Lots of things to look for with this ice. And of course, you don't want to think about it, but inevitably, and in some cases, somebody is going to fall through the ice. There are going to be accidents like this. What should someone do if they do happen to fall through thin ice?
So even before we go out onto the ice, we want to make sure that somebody knows where you are. If you're going to be out on Orchard Lake, tell friends, tell family, make sure you've got a phone with you so that you can contact, so that you can call 911, whether it's a phone or a smartwatch with cellular service. We want to make sure that you can call for help if you need it. The next thing I need you to do, and water is going to be cold, it's going to be really hard to stay calm, but that is going to be vitally important. The more you thrash around, the more exhausted you're going to get. That cold water is going to sap your energy quicker than anything you've ever known. So we want to make sure that you have the ability to stay calm and conserve your energy, because you're going to be there for a minute before help gets to you. Once help is on the way, it's going to take us a minute as the fire department to put on our protective suits. We do have special cold water ice rescue suits that will protect our firefighters from the elements. But it's going to take us a minute to get those on, get out to you, and get you back to shore. So we need to make sure you're staying calm. We've heard in the past that people are worried that their clothing is actually going to cause them to sink in that water. Generally, that is not the case. Your clothing, particularly if it's big, bulky clothes that you're going to wear in the wintertime, that does a great job of trapping air and makes you more buoyant rather than causing you to sink. So you want to keep that clothing on. If you're near ice, odds are the ice where you came from is going to be the strongest ice. So if you are able to make your way backwards, backtrack from the area you came from, that will get you to the stronger ice that you can use to support you while you're waiting for help to arrive. Once we're out there, we're gonna throw essentially a pool noodle around you to help you float. We're gonna have our special suits on to make sure we don't sink underneath you, and we're gonna get you out and get you to that ambulance as quickly as we can.
That's absolutely right. Everything you can do to make sure that they get warm very, very quickly. Sergeant Blake Belsky with the West Bloomfield Fire Department is joining us right now on The Splash to help guide some of the residents through spring safety as this ice starts to melt all throughout Greater West Bloomfield. And Blake, just thinking in your head throughout Greater West Bloomfield, what might be some of the biggest hazard zones in terms of this quickly melting ice?
So now that we're so close to that spring deadline here, that ice is nearly gone on all of our surface lakes. But the lessons that we know from ice safety apply the same to that freezing cold water that we're left with even after that ice melts. So you want to make sure that you are bundled up. If you do end up in that water, we want to make sure that you are able to get out and get dry. If you are covered in cold water, the first thing you're going to want to do is try and strip that wet clothing off of you. If you're still out in the elements, that's actually going to cause you more harm than good. So we want you to get to shelter. Then we want you to get those wet clothes off, get something dry, and then we want to warm you up as quickly as we can. Whether that's getting you sitting next to a radiator, a nice warm fire, If the ambulance is there, we're going to start an IV. We're going to give you warm fluids. We're going to pack your armpits and your groin with those heat packs that you can buy at any drugstore. And then we're going to get you to the hospital, make sure that you are safe and healthy. What we don't want is to have anyone risk refreezing. So we're worried about frostbite. If we think that something's going to refreeze, we're going to let you stay cold a little bit until we can make sure that you're not being exposed to that cold weather, cold water anymore.
All right, really important information. Blake, thank you so much for talking about this. One more quick question before we let you go. In terms of maybe preparing yourself for next year, when the ice comes back, if you're going to be out on the lakes, ice fishing and whatnot, what is some training and preparation? What should people undertake before engaging in some of these ice-related activities to make sure an accident like this does not occur?
That's great. And the best thing you can do is monitor those ice conditions. The folks that live on or near the water generally have a pretty good idea of the conditions on their lake and their backyard. If you're going to a lake that you're not familiar with, find someone who knows that ice well. That could be a bait shop where you're picking up your worms before you go ice fishing. It could be the DNR websites. There are plenty of resources that are monitoring the ice conditions on a daily, even an hourly basis. So find those resources, find the experts on the ice that you're visiting, and make sure that you have a good idea of what you're walking onto.
Get up Blake Belsky for his time and for all of our guests for joining us today here on the Splash Live today. But that's going to do it for us. Big thank you to everybody. Scan the QR code on our screen right now to stay up to date with the West Bloomfield Girls Lakers team. You will see an image at the top of the screen that will take you right to the coverage of the game. But that's going to do it for all of us here. Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.